If you're looking for proven ways to take your fundraising results to the next level, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Intentional Fundraiser Podcast, hosted by Tammy Zonker. Tammy has trained and led thousands of nonprofit organizations to collectively raise more than $500 million and is also recognized as one of America's top 20 fundraising experts. This is the podcast where Tammy equips and empowers amazing fundraising pros like you to transform your fundraising so you can transform the world. And now, let's hear from Tammy.
Today, I'm talking with the one and only Dana Snyder. She's an entrepreneur and a digital marketing strategist, best known as the founder and CEO of Positive Equation, a consultancy focused on helping nonprofit organizations create sustainable monthly giving programs and enhancing their online presence through effective social media strategies. She's a sought-after speaker and frequently presents at industry conferences like NEO Summit, the Nonprofit Storytelling Conference, and loads of other conferences. She also hosts a great podcast called Missions to Movements. So if you haven't checked that out, definitely go and subscribe. Dana also just released a new book called the Monthly Giving Mastermind, a framework to build, grow, and sustain subscriptions for good, a comprehensive guide for nonprofits looking to leverage the power of recurring donations in today's subscription-driven economy. The book presents a dynamic 5-step framework for implementing and growing monthly giving programs. And that's what we're here to talk about today. Dana, welcome to the show.
Tammy, thank you so much for having me. It's good to catch up with you after so many years.
It has been a while. I think the last time we met, you were expecting, and now?
I know. And now she's a year and a half.
My goodness.
Like, where has time gone? It's crazy.
Crazy is right. All right, well, let's just jump right in. What inspired you to write the Monthly Giving Mastermind, and how does it address the current fundraising challenges that so many nonprofits are facing?
Such a good question. And I love this because there are so many books on many different topics, and monthly giving has definitely been heightened and at the forefront of many conversations in the industry. And I have been working specifically on monthly giving programs for over the past for 2 or 3 years. And I noticed online, if you go to Google monthly giving, there's usually a lot of generic information about building monthly giving programs. And most of the time, large organizations are featured, the Save the Children's of the world, Charity Water. And that's not always the framework, what's going to work for most organizations. And so in the past 2 years, I've had about 4 different monthly giving masterminds. And so through that, there's been roughly 20 organizations that I've helped launch their programs. And so there's just a lot of stories I wanted to share, conversations that I've had with organizations. And so I wanted to put together a very tactical book that could share not only this 5-step framework that I believe helps you build, grow, and sustain a successful program, but then also share case studies from all different types of organizations, all different sizes of organizations, in all different places in their monthly giving programs, to showcase that it's possible. Literally, if you have 20 monthly donors, if you're just starting, all the way to 66,000 monthly donors with the Charity Waters of the world. And so the book really encompasses not only, yes, a teachable framework, but also literally some stories of the how-tos throughout each step of the framework process from peers.
I love that. I feel like when you can give case studies or use cases, it really makes the learning come to life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one thing to always talk about, oh, well, that would be nice if I could do X. But you're like, oh, that's how they put that into action. Got it. That makes sense. Or how people change things, or they went out one direction and then pivoted and shifted it to be something else. So it's just helpful, I think, hearing the behind the scenes stories, because oftentimes we only see the product of what's out there, but what actually has happened to make that possible is what I wanted to share.
Yeah, I love it. Can you unpack the 5-step framework for our listeners? We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Kindsight builds technology that helps nonprofits make a difference. It was born when 3 leading-edge nonprofit technologies, iWave, Ascend, and Nonprofit OS, came together to better support organizations with purpose-built tools designed to make fundraising easier, faster, and more effective. With a combined 40 years working with nonprofits and other fundraising organizations, we have seen the generosity landscape evolve and change in ways we never could have predicted. It's become clear that the best approach to fundraising is a personalized and meaningful one, a human approach. But that's not easy when goals are high and resources are scarce. That's where Kindsight comes in. With Kindsight, fundraisers can find and qualify potential donors with the world's largest proprietary donor database, engage with those donors quickly and effectively with AI-powered content generation, and keep everything on track with a centralized CRM built specifically for fundraising teams. Connect your story to donors who care about your cause at any scale, in real time. That's the power of Kindsight.
Of course. So step number 1 is to create the product. And first and foremost, I think this is really important because I believe that a monthly giving program should be treated as a product in the sense that it should have its own landing page. It should have a name for the program. It should have its own language and storytelling around the program. It should have a budget to market the product. It should be included in many conversations. It is a new revenue stream for you. And just like any other product online that we might purchase, I have AirPods, right? These AirPods have a name, they have a style, they had a full team behind them, they had a marketing plan. All of that should be the same in parallel to a monthly giving program. And so I believe it should be treated as something just as important. And so the create the product really dives into specifics around why are you creating this program? What's the right structure for your monthly giving program? That goes down to what impact dollar amounts are you going to share and why. That includes the naming, which I think is really important of your program. And I list steps of how do you do that. And then I move into step number 2, which is make it easy. And this is really important, of course. We want to make sure that it's a frictionless experience. This all starts with having a landing page that's specific for the monthly giving program. Yes, of course, on your homepage, there should be the option to give monthly on your donation tool plus one time. But I think to help with any donor confusion, storytelling, just leading somebody to a clear place when you're having a conversation about your monthly giving program, it should have its own home base. And then the other half of that is the actual donation experience. How long does it take to go through the process? Is it a really long form? What's that process like on mobile? The actual giving form that you have on that landing page. And so that's kind of the make it easy aspect. And then the third part I would say of make it easy is the management of being a monthly donor. So you want to make sure that that's easy too. One of the examples I share in my book is about how easy it was to sign up to HelloFresh as a subscription platform for meal delivery. I am not a good cook. And having a young child, I was like, we need something easy around here. And so it's very easy to set up HelloFresh. It's very easy to pick your personalized menu. However, if you want to pause or cancel said subscription, you cannot do it through their mobile app on your phone. You have to be on desktop and go through a series of prompts. And so that was frustrating to me as a user. And so you want to make sure, can we make it as easy as possible on the management side for someone to pause, increase, decrease, cancel their gift as well. Step number 3, which I think might be my personal favorite, is call in the believers. And a little description for call in the believers is this is all about finding your super fans. I think sometimes we blast things out far and wide, hoping that someone's just going to bite at what we're offering, instead of really thinking about who is Dr. Marcus Collins attended my monthly giving summit, which we can talk about too. He was one of the keynotes. And he really talks about this concept of a subculture and finding your subculture. Who's the niche people who are just going to be your biggest fans and ambassadors, and invite those people to be part of your monthly giving program. And then they are just going to be the catalyst for you for the message to ripple and grow. So that whole chapter and that part of the framework is all about the messaging and the specific language that you're using to attract those people and repel the ones who aren't interested, quite frankly, who aren't right. And then it also includes partnerships. So there's a bunch of different like tips in there about how do you call in your believers. And then step number 4 is finally when you get to make the ask. And so that one is all about how do you go out and make the ask? How do you ask for the donation and a bunch of different suggestions and case studies on that? And then step number 5, which is really the full intent of what we want for these programs, is to share constant joy and gratitude. And so that's all about retention. How do you build a solid retention plan so that these people feel the exact same emotion when they first made that gift every single time they see that monthly gift come across their statement? And so there's a bunch of different suggestions and stories and case studies in Share Joy and Gratitude too.
Yeah, I love that. Does one particular story come to mind around an organization that's especially effective at continuing to kindle that joy and gratitude?
Yeah, there's a couple of them in there, and I'm monthly donors to a few of them as well, so I get to actually experience it. So the Hope Booth is one based here in Atlanta. Gloria Umana, she takes old phone booths and converts them into these mental health experiences with an iPad inside. And nearly every single month, if not every other month, I'm receiving a handwritten note from them. They also have sweatshirts that they give to monthly supporters. So that's like a couple different instances. And they have emails that go out once a month specifically to the movement supporters about what's going on. And then I've reached out to Gloria and now I have a personal relationship with her. So I feel even closer to the organization. Another retention story that I share in the book is BB4CK, which is brown bagging for Calgary's kids. And Lindsay shares an exceptional 12-month plus strategy. And she was so kind to actually share the PDF in the book that I share. And so she breaks down month by month, like what it is that they do so that their hunger heroes literally feel like they are the hero. So that's everything from the emails to videos being sent to snail mail to surprise and delight moments to special invites to things. Like, dependent upon what your cause is and what makes sense for you, you can be as creative as you want with this. Another organization that's more local based, their whole thing is around arts. And so they actually invite their monthly donors to come to a play with them. And so they can be in community together. So there's a bunch of different things dependent upon the scale, local, regional, national, right, that you can do to make something like that really unique for retention.
Yeah, really special. You mentioned that we live in a subscription economy. So how
Mhm.
can nonprofits, I mean, you mentioned the HelloFresh as an
Right.
example, and I think we all are a member of some subscription. How can nonprofits leverage this trend, this subscription model to their advantage in their fundraising? I mean, monthly giving is absolutely one of those ways, but how do they really maximize that? And are there other ways?
So I think first it's having a recurring first ask. I'm a big believer in putting that at the forefront of your communication and your marketing plans and your fundraising promotions because, well, for many reasons. A, it's more sustainable. B, we all know that the conversion rate of a one-time donor is historically low. 40%, I think, would be high. So that's difficult to consistently, especially with a lot of small teams, to yield results trying to just rekindle those relationships that might never come back. So I would rather focus on that mindset because we already have that mindset as consumers with a majority of the products and the services that we consume on a daily basis. I think maybe a decade ago, it would have been harder for that sell, for that approach to work. But now that's how I do everything else. Why would I not give daily? And so I think it's just a switch of comms and having that recurring first approach. And I strongly believe that even with Giving Tuesday, tentpole campaigns that you have and make at gala events, I think I'm often shocked that there's definitely like that sexy appeal to go after that like instantaneous $50,000 gift, but then it's gone. And then you have to work again to get it. So would you not rather have 10,000, but you're getting it every single month with a 80-90% retention rate, and then you can build off of that, and then you get your major donors. I just think the structure of fundraising is really going to be moving even more so into this model.
Yeah, I like that. And I feel like so often we approach our fundraising strategies or channels in such a siloed way. Like monthly
Yes.
giving only looks like this. We don't think about
Right.
how it could apply to a major gift like you've described.
Oh, absolutely. I've had lots of people where it's even, let's just say, I can't give to you $5,000 check. I go into a major donor meeting. I'm asking for 5, I'm asking for 10, I'm asking for 15. And if you just leave it on the table of, oh, okay, and then you leave, what if you said, what about if you joined I'm going to use Gloria's program, The Movement, and we can break up those into 12 monthly installments. Would you consider a $500 gift each month? And they may, absolutely, that works within my financial budget. So just being able to also enter it into those conversations. And on the flip side, you can find new potential major donors. If somebody's giving to you $250 a month, that's worthwhile to have a conversation to see, would you like to have a greater relationship with us? Here's how, and here's what this looks like. So it also can be a pool of finding new major donors as well.
It really is a shift in mindset.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a whole chapter at the front is dedicated to growth mindset because that's huge. And I really do believe you have to have a board and you have to have leadership that is bought in to the importance of recurring giving, because I know those one-time big gifts are like super sexy. Like, I get it. However, what's even better is sustainable, consistent funding where your team is not exhausted and burnt out trying to always gather those gifts. But how much more fun would it be if your team's just working harder on that retention side and saying thank you instead of on acquisition all the time?
Yeah, agreed. And I've often read in different studies and from different benchmarks, white papers, that monthly reoccurring donors at any gift value are far more likely to leave you in their legacy plans, right? Their
Yes.
discretionary income, their disposable income, it may be restricted during their lifetime, but after they pass, they're giving from appreciated assets. So you see that too.
Oh, yes. This is very timely. I have a mastermind that's wrapping up right now. And one of the organizations just said that they had a couple monthly donors that were giving like nothing crazy, but like modest amounts for, I think it was like over 10 years they gave as monthly donors. And then nothing was ever said, but then they were left like an endowment from those two individuals. And it was just like blew their mind. It kind of came out of left field, but did it?
Yeah.
Really? Because if somebody's giving to you for a decade as a monthly donor, they really believe in the longevity of your mission and what you're doing. And so that absolutely happens all the time.
Yeah. So you've given some wonderful, really encouraging example of what it's like when it's working. What are some of the most common obstacles that nonprofits
Mm,
face when they're implementing monthly giving programs, and how do you suggest they overcome them?
yes. So many. I think one can be the technology obstacle. When you have a monthly giving program, you want your tech stack to work together, ideally to be natively integrated. And what I mean by that is you want your donation front end tool to talk to your back end CRM tool if those are two separate things, whether they're natively connected, which many of them do, or if there's to something like a Zapier, a Zap. You also want it to communicate to your email tool if your email tool is separate. You can also have that integrate with third-party tools like Letter Labs for handwritten thank you notes. So you want to make it as seamless as possible, especially if you're a small team. All of these tools to talk to each other, like your CRM should be your source of truth. So does your front end connect? And a lot of times when I start my monthly giving masterminds, the first thing we do is a full donation audit. And I look at what are your tools right now? And a lot of times they don't connect, or they're researching a new tool and they're really excited about it. But then I'm like, wait a second, what's the source of truth? And I'm like, did we ask the questions of do they integrate? And a lot of times those questions aren't asked. And the sales teams at the platforms aren't asking you. Unfortunately, they should
Yeah.
be. So that's usually like the first thing is I would say the tech. And then specifically for monthly on your landing page, it should be a monthly only ask. Then you have the options for one time somewhere else. And then number two, I would say is it's still very hard to encourage people a lot to make the ask to give monthly all the time. It's, well, I'll ask as a secondary, or I'll ask people like on the way out to something. I'm like, no, it should be like the ask, the prominent all the time. Like, and I say this because people wonder how the charity waters of the world are so successful with the spring. And when I've talked to Cubby Graham with our team and Vic Harrison, they say it's because we literally ask for people to join all the time. It was our main focus. So if you're not going to make it your main focus, you see growth. That's it. And that shouldn't be a surprise. Like some people say, why is it not growing? And the other thing about this is they'll send one email to join the monthly giving program. One. No follow-ups. And then they bounce on to something else. I'm like, one email? Like, A, what was the open rate of that? B, somebody could have opened it, then they're busy, right? Like, I always share this example on Black Friday last year. I drink Nespresso. I love Nespresso coffee. And they probably sent me 15 emails over the course of 3 days about their specials during Black Friday and Cyber Monday. My daughter and my husband both had COVID at the time, and I did need to buy Nespresso coffee. We were out, but I would open an email and then something would happen and I would get distracted. So email number 15, I sure did open and I did make the purchase.
15.
So, yeah, so literally sometimes, and not sometimes, we all need a reminder. And so it's literally that. I would say it's the tech, and then it's getting in the rhythm of making it a consistent, prominent ask.
I love that. Jerry Panish used to say, it's amazing what you don't get when you don't ask.
Oh my gosh. I think this always just goes back to in fundraising. And I kind of remember feeling like this, but maybe I was also just so naive and bold when I had my first job and I was working for a nonprofit where I was like, why would you not want to support us? Like, we're doing the coolest things. And then if you say no, I'm like, okay. I don't know. I think we can hear no too many times and then get really down on ourselves. But it's just no right now.
Yeah.
And so if they're meant to be part of it, they're going to be a part of it, just maybe at a later time. And so realizing that you're giving them such a gift for themselves. I love all the organizations I give monthly to. And I feel so important and empowered that I'm doing something good for the organizations that I support. And they're giving me that gift. So never feel like you're doing something where it feels guilty to make the ask, which I think happens in fundraising a lot. It's something so special to be a part of a community of monthly supporters.
Agreed. I will often talk with groups that I'm teaching or coaching about the fact that fundraising is not something we do to someone, right? We do it with them and for them.
Yes.
For exactly the same reasons you're saying.
Absolutely.
So good. So along that lines, in the book, you talk about monthly giving contributing to creating a movement of charitable living and impact. I thought that was so beautiful. And it really, for me, it is the solution to the steep decline of U.S. household giving here in the U.S. and elsewhere.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about the movement of charitable living and impact.
Yeah, I love this. So I think it comes down to if you are someone who has made not just the intention, but the action to be a recurring supporter, that shifts something in you, right? And when you're getting that constant communication, you know you're doing something good. So how does that then fuel the other areas in your life and just who you are and how you go about your day? And so I think it just creates this ripple effect of positivity, of generosity, of kindness and compassion for people. And if you're receiving those impact stories and you're getting that boost of that like endorphin of positivity, then that's just going to inspire the actions that you make throughout the day, throughout the month, throughout the year.
And I wonder if you have that personal relationship with some of those monthly givers, those monthly believers, or people who are part of that movement, if they're willing to share the ripple effect on video that you can maybe post on your landing page for your monthly giving program. Have you seen success with that?
Oh, yes. So one of the big examples in the Call in the Believers chapter is Movember. Movember is the largest global health men's charity. And I worked with them for 3 years on their North America digital campaign. And talk about giving your brand to the interpretation of your supporters. And on their website, they literally say, mow your own way. And so they give ideas during their peer-to-peer campaign in November about how you can participate. But then they're like, do your own thing. Here's our brand guidelines. Go with your friends, your family, your supporters. Feel what you're called to do and support the organization. And they share all of those crazy cool stories. And some people do some like extreme things around November, and not just growing the mustaches, but they have health. Some people do some crazy bike challenges or running challenges with fraternities and sororities and friends and family. So yes, I think when you can give up a little bit of control and empower your supporters to take their own voice into the meaning of what your cause is for them, oh yeah, then it can take off. And that's literally how the movement is shaped, is by people feeling like how they're personally connected to the organization and sharing that. And if you can take those stories and share them on your website, then that's the social proof that we all look for in everything we buy. I mean, one example, literally today, my husband and I just bought a new, now that Kennedy is not in a, well, not pack and play. We had this like square play area. She was constrained. But now that she's 18 months, homegirl does not want to be constrained. So we're like, where are we going to put all these toys downstairs? And so we're like, we need to buy like a new storage shelving unit for downstairs. So of course I go to Amazon, and yes, I find one that looks nice. But what's the first thing that I do? I go down to the reviews.
Oh,
I am taking action based upon the recommendations of strangers, Tammy. But we do that for hotels. We do that for Airbnbs. We do that for the restaurants we eat at. And so when we see someone that could be like me, I see myself represented in social proof of a monthly giving program. I'm like, yeah, I want to do that with them. Yes, those are my people. And it's the same thing also Dr. Marcus Collins talks about. I do things like them. They do things like me, right? And it's this whole concept of community and that you're called in to be a part of. So yes, 1000%. I love that you asked that.
And I think one of the wonderful things about community is that community members get connected and attached to one another. And sometimes we do have turnover, maybe in the person who manages the monthly giving program. We have a staff member who leaves, or maybe they moved upward or laterally into another area of fundraising. And sometimes the shift in that staff member can be a disruption in the relationship with the donor, right? So we think about my donors, my relationship to them. And what I have found is, especially in really any giving community, but certainly monthly giving communities, when they have personal relationships with one another, any shifts in staff become less significant. Like they're still in because of their connectedness to another, in addition to loving the mission.
Yes.
Yeah.
And sharing those stories of other supporters and gathering them in any way you can is so important to cultivate that.
Yeah, it's really good. There has been historically a mindset amongst some that monthly giving, set it and forget it. Get them in and hope they forget. And it just keeps hitting their debit card, their checking account, whatever. And that is not what this book is about, right? This is about...
No, but it is funny how often that comes up. Someone's like, are you sure I should email?
Do I want to remind them that they're giving? So talk about the role of the relationship building and the connection and how important that is, because we're not trying to trick people. Let's get them set up and just hope and pray that they forget that we're debiting their account every month.
Yeah, I will say it is funny though. I've had multiple friends who do say that about monthly giving. It's great. I can just set it up and forget it. But in the sense of I'm doing good every single month and I'm excited about it, but I don't have to think about giving every single month because it's already done. The flip side, I had, and I don't even think I shared this story in the book. I had an organization I was giving to for a year, and I actually sought them out. They weren't even like in my purview. It was something like I was Google searching because I specifically wanted to give it to a cause in this area. And it was around like fertility support, and found them, started giving. I did set it and forget it for basically a year. And then I got an email from them asking for me to increase my gift. And I was like, wait a second, did I get, what's happened?
Yeah.
And I went back through my email and I had none. I had no emails with updated impact. I didn't know what was going on. I even reached out because this is the work I do. I sent a message to like their team if we could like chat. Didn't get a response about that. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I stopped giving to the organization because there was no response. And the only time that there was one was when there was another ask. And so I think you definitely want to make sure that you're sharing constant impact updates because we want to see movement. We want to see what's happening, what's the impact of our gift. And then, of course, I think upsell campaigns can be really successful. And I share a couple of those stories in the book where they have been very successful if you do have that consistent relationship built over time.
Yeah, agreed. Like you, I probably belong, I think, to about a dozen monthly giving programs. Certainly causes I care about, but also organizations that I respect so much that I
Yes.
wanted to learn. I wanted to be on the donor side and to see, I think like St. Jude,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I've even been known to cancel to see what they do and then
Yeah.
renew to see what they do. And I love when they have the courage. Maybe it's around year end or around a special need like a disaster or, a dog fighting ring gets busted and it's on the news. I mean, the heightened awareness. And so they reach out to me via email and they acknowledge my loyal giving. And then they say, in light of or at this time of year, would you consider
Mm-hmm.
making an additional one time gift in addition to your generous? And I love that they have the courage that they haven't just gone on autopilot and
Yeah.
that they extend that opportunity. Like, we know you're giving. It's
Yeah.
not, will you give? And I'm like, I am. They recognize that I am and they give me that opportunity. Again, it's the joy. They're giving me an opportunity to feel more joy.
Yeah. I would say at that point when they're doing that, I would say either, again, a one time gift is great if there's like a specific need. I
Yeah.
think the better ask for monthly donors would be, could you increase your gift by even if it's like $5?
Yeah. So negligible,
Because
really.
over time, right. That's it. That's like a super easy, yeah, $5, of course. However, over 12 months, it's gonna be $60. The likelihood is your retention is gonna be more than just 1 year. So that's probably more than your one-time gift would have been if it was like, sure, I'll give you 25 extra dollars. Sure, I'll give you 100 other. But that will compound over time, especially if they ask you the next year or 6 months later to increase the monthly gift again. So I think there's some real strategy there if we start to really think about it again as a product and as a revenue stream that is sustainable for the organization.
Yeah, really good. So, what do you see as the future of monthly giving as it evolves, and what should our listeners do to stay ahead of the curve?
Yeah. So at the end of the book, I ask this question to all of the organizations I interviewed, and then I share some ideas myself. I think that AI has just really begun integrating into our space ever since ChatGPT really became the more like media frontward facing platform. But I think there's going to be way more than that. There's a bunch of tools and technology coming out specifically to allow us to do more AI predictions into our data to figure out who our ideal donors to reach out to and do really, really, really deep segmentation on that. I think there's also going to be an emergence of the in real life immersive experiences to really gain brand awareness and that closer relationship with people. And then I think there's also going to be, which I'm very curious to see who kind of attempts this first. I haven't seen it yet, but just how the Hulus, Disneys have merged together. I think there's going to be like some subscription packages, or I think there should be, where if you give a gift, it's like you end up giving to multiple organizations, or it's an integration between a nonprofit and a brand. And there's going to be like these like packages that I think will be really creative to see who ends up doing that with partnerships. So a lot of creativity, I think, coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, it's exciting. And now for a final word from our sponsor.
Every fundraiser knows that the secret to success lies in creating authentic connections. This starts with data, but that data needs to turn into insights that inspire action, which in turn fosters generosity and long-term donor relationships. Kindsight's fundraising intelligence solution lets any nonprofit do just that at any scale, with the world's largest proprietary donor database, AI-powered content generation, an award-winning CRM built specifically for fundraising teams, and much more. Go to kindsight.io to see it in action.
What's one key takeaway our listeners could gain from the Giving Mastermind that they could start implementing right away? And there are so many, but what do you think is the most powerful, the most intriguing to you?
Oh, I would say the first thing I would do is look through your language. because this is something that we could all just do, even if it's on your homepage. I would say, yes, get a landing page for your monthly giving program, but look through your existing copy on your website, on your socials, in your email. Because I've been doing this a lot with my current mastermind group. We put together like a framework for the first acquisition series of one time to monthly, and then also their welcome series. And the most common thing I see is it sounds so corporate. And you want your communication to feel like a person talking to a person. And my biggest recommendation is read through your website. And you can even actually use AI for this if you want. Pull the copy, put it in, explain that please edit this copy to sound more human, to create visuals for the readers, like their head's going to be nodding as they go down the page, with the ideal action for this person to feel compelled to become a monthly donor and a longtime supporter of this organization. And our tone is blank, blank, blank. And then you put in the copy, you can put in the website and see what it spits out. You can do the same thing for emails. I literally just did that for a client. They had sent me something to review, and I was like, it's not going to make an impact. It needs a stronger hook. And I literally said, add color to it, make it more descriptive, make it so that I can feel a story, see a story. And it gave me back something awesome. And I sent it back to them. They're like, oh my gosh, I love the hook. And I was like, yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So, but that's all that it can take sometimes, right? And another suggestion is to read it out loud. And does it sound like something you would say to somebody? Or does it sound too corporate or just without emotion, really? Too full of jargon is very common.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I would recommend.
I love that. Does it sound like when you talk to your grandmother?
Yeah.
Someone you love.
Does it sound real? Does it sound true? Does it sound relatable? Something we put that was really profound on the top of one of our organization's site right now is Silicon Valley has a diversity problem. And so it immediately makes people be like, what? Like, you want to say something that's going to get a reaction.
Yeah. Provocative.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So good. Can you elaborate on the concept of mastermind?
Yes.
Yes. Talk about that a little bit and how nonprofits can really benefit from that collaborative approach.
Yes. This is something I bring up a lot when I'm speaking, because the first thing I ask is, do you know what a mastermind is? And a lot of times they don't. So it's basically a usually smaller group of individuals that come together that are like-minded, that are working towards different goals, challenges, but usually a common goal together. And they all share and are collectively trying to advance each other. And so I was a part of a mastermind in 2021, and it changed everything for me. I was in a mastermind of about 15 female entrepreneurs, of people truly that I aspired to be. And so I paid 5 figures for this mastermind. It scared the bejesus out of me, but it was totally worth it. And then that's how I decided I didn't want to work one-on-one in building monthly giving programs, because there's such, again, power in community. And that's happened time and time again on phone calls in this current mastermind where, oh, that's a great idea that they're doing. Never would have thought of that. And so just learning from one another. So a mastermind is really this like-minded collective community that comes together to help each other advance.
Beautiful. Dana, you're a gift.
Oh, thanks, Tammy. You too.
Oh, thank you. But really, thanks.
Hard work.
It's hard work, but it's meaningful.
That's right.
Right? Keeps us going. Before I let you go, we typically wrap up each episode with some rapid fire questions. And I have not shared these with you in advance. No. So take your time. Don't take rapid fire so literally. But are you game?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. What's the best fundraising advice you've ever received?
Oh, I think probably just make the ask.
Yeah, just make the ask.
Just make the ask, yeah.
What book do you recommend to our audience and why?
Other than mine. So I really love For the Culture. I've talked about Dr. Marcus Collins a few times. I think his book is exceptional. That would be the top. And then there's another one. It's the one that made me quit my corporate job 8 years ago. Good is the New Cool by Afdel Aziz and Bobby Lopez.
Great. What are the 3 most important traits you think a successful fundraiser must possess?
Well, there's relationship building. So I think part of that is just overall empathy, which I think 99.9% people do have for people. So people skills, empathy. I think you need to be able, and hopefully you have a leader that does this, allows you to take risks. incorporate risks into what you do, and creativity. I think those would be my 3.
Love it. As I hear you say that, Seth Godin says you can't innovate without taking risks.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes in the nonprofit sector, we're so risk averse, we're so careful.
His book, his 20 plus books are great.
Yeah, he's amazing for sure. What's your favorite fundraising application or tool?
Ooh, I feel like I want to be different on this one. Favorite fundraising tool. So I would actually say LinkedIn.
And why?
So I just gave a keynote and workshop in Ohio this week on this. And so I truly believe that we as nonprofit professionals tell our organization's stories a lot, but we don't tell our own personal stories in the intersection of the missions that we do enough. And LinkedIn is a beautiful place to do that intersection of personal meets business. And LinkedIn is where 1 billion decision makers are all over the globe. And it has been so phenomenal for me and my work and the conversations that happen in the DMs of that platform. And I think there's such an ability. I had Ariana Unice, she's the head of LinkedIn for Nonprofits, on my podcast and at the Monthly Giving Summit. And she talked about just the network effect and how powerful that is to see who you're connected to. And I think there's substantial fundraising opportunities on that platform.
Yeah, agreed. What's your favorite conference and why?
Favorite conference? Okay, well, I'm going to say my own.
Yeah.
So just because it's new and it was so fun, I've attended a lot. The Monthly Giving Summit, it's virtual. And there was 2,100 people from 47 countries. It blew me away. And it was specifically focused on monthly giving. And the community was just on fire. And what blew me away, and I had no expectations, the total event, it was 1 to 4 p.m. for 2 days. And the average average was 4 hours and 30 minutes time spent.
Amazing.
And so I loved putting it together. It was really thoughtful on the partnerships, really thoughtful on the speakers. Everyone got paid. That was a really big, non-negotiable for me. And so I have a lot of fun putting it together and seeing the community that builds around it.
Yeah, amazing. All right, last question. Knowing what you know now about fundraising, what advice would you give your younger self?
Oh, what advice would I give my younger self? To ask for a monthly gift. We
Yes.
never did. I went back to Sarasota, Florida, which is where I had my first nonprofit job. And I asked my boss who came to my book launch party, my old boss, I was like, Lisa, did we ever ask? I don't remember ever asking. And I was director of development. I don't remember asking for monthly gifts. And she's like, no, we didn't. It was never something we thought of. I was like, however, I definitely did ask the same people year after year to give again. And she's like, yep. And she's like, I'm still asking them now. So probably to say, let's build a monthly giving program.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Dana.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, this has been amazing. To learn more about Dana Snyder, the Monthly Giving Mastermind book, or Positive Equation, check out the links in the show notes. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Intentional Fundraiser podcast. Keep on transforming your fundraising so you can transform the world. The Intentional Fundraiser podcast is a Fundraising Transformed original. It's hosted by me, Tammy Zonker, founder and president of Fundraising Transformed, where we help equip and empower fundraisers, nonprofit leaders, and board members to transform their fundraising so they can transform the world. Visit fundraisingtransform.com/podcast to subscribe to this podcast and subscribe to my newsletter to get fundraising lessons, tools, and helpful resources delivered straight to your inbox each month. If you want my help with taking your fundraising to the next level, become a member of my Fundraising Transformers community as a growth member and join me live each month where I'll teach you the same strategies I use to lead, train, and coach thousands of nonprofits, social service organizations, healthcare foundations, private schools, colleges, and universities to collectively raise more than $500 million including a single gift of $27.1 million. As a member, you can participate in my Ask Me Anything sessions every month and get answers to your burning questions. Chat with other growth members inside our private and safe online community about what you're working on, struggling with, and share lessons learned. And get instant access to my growing library of on-demand self-paced training classes. New content is added every single month. Learn more about becoming a member at fundraisingtransform.com/growth. Talk soon.